before it gets too late. Oh, actually, I just see another gentleman joining us, Larry Barnett. Okay, I think we'll begin. Whoever joins us will join in the middle. So once again, thank you all for taking the time today to attend our overview of our iPurchase solution. Again, my name is Andy Weinstein. I'm the CEO of ISS Group. I have Frank Salisi, who's joining me. Frank is our Vice President of Solutions Development, and Frank will actually be handling the controls of the software demo once we get to that point in the presentation. I do have just a few PowerPoint slides that I'm going to run through real quick. For those of you who are not familiar with ISS Group was founded in 1986. For the first 14 years of our existence, we were a reseller and implementer of ERP solutions, a variety of different ERP solutions. And very specifically, from 1995 to 2000, we were a reseller and service provider for the QAD, at that time called MFG Pro, ERP solution. We were actually approached by QAD in '95. Pam Lopker herself approached us and asked us if we'd be interested in web enabling the MFG Pro product for QAD. At that time, QAD did not have any e-commerce solution, any module as part of their ERP suite. So we said, we're absolutely interested. And we, in cooperation with QAD, we developed the first QAD e-commerce module called MFG Pro on the Web Trading Partner Transactions. We actually call that TPT. That name was given to the product by Pam Lopker herself. Companies such as Ingersoll Rand and Tyco, Eaton, GE Lighting, GE Quartz, John Crane, and many, many, many others purchased and implemented the TPT e-commerce solution. Many of those companies are still using the TPT product to this day. The TPT product, when it was originally developed, was a customer-facing e-commerce solution. It allowed the QAD user organizations, such as Ingersoll Rand and Tyco and Eaton, to offer their customers e-commerce transactions over the web, tightly integrated with QAD. And what I mean by that is order entry, stock status inquiry, AR inquiry, pricing and availability, and many others. There were about 75 different MFG Pro functions that were web-enabled and offered as part of the TPT product. In 2004, we were approached by one of the companies, Aspect Medical, a $100 million medical device manufacturer out of Massachusetts, who came to us and said, we'd like you to expand the functionality of the TPT product from the customer side of the supply chain to the buy side of the supply chain. And we developed our first e-commerce, what we called MRO purchasing application, as an extension of our TPT product. So iPurchase, which was originally called MRO Purchasing, was originally developed back in 2004 as part of our TPT e-commerce solution. That was the V1 version. We are currently in version 6.1. And the business we're in is developing and implementing progress-based web applications. This is just a list of our own proprietary. We do have some third-party solutions as well that we resell, such as Microsoft CRM, Infor EAM, and another inventory planning solution called Replenishment Plus. But this is a list of our own proprietary solutions that we've developed, all progress-based web applications, iPurchase, which is what we're going to be reviewing today, iApprove, which is inside of iPurchase, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, iQuote, iBridge, and iFramework. This is a picture of a partial list of our client base. These are all active clients using one or more of our solutions, the solutions that I showed on the previous slide. In addition to some of the third-party solutions, some of them are using Microsoft CRM, along with our iBridge connector to QAD. The common denominator across all of these clients is they are all QAD end user organizations. 98% of our client base are QAD end user organizations. So that's where we live and breathe, and that's where we do business. Our business is focusing and servicing and providing solutions to the QAD end user community. The functional objectives of iPurchase were developed with sourcing and purchasing professionals throughout the QAD community. So we did not develop these objectives in a vacuum on our own. We work with vice presidents and directors and managers of the purchasing departments and the sourcing departments of our client base. And this is where this list of objectives came from. Decreasing the purchasing cycle time from the time a purchase order requisition is created through the time a purchase order requisition is approved and a purchase order is created. Streamlining the approval process, increasing volume, purchase order volume without having to add buyers and purchasing overhead, eliminating what's called maverick spend, which is basically just allowing anybody to buy anything. So it tightens up control on an organization's spend. Improving supplier relationships, and that's done a number of ways through e-commerce shopping, which we'll demonstrate today, okay, as well as supplier catalogs. We offer purchasing analytics, reducing MRO inventory, as well as tracking projects, improving the handling of documents, and we are SOX compliant as well as FDA compliant. We have a number of clients who are medical device manufacturers who require FDA compliance as well. This is just a little bit of propaganda from the Aberdeen group. We didn't make this up. Basically what the Aberdeen group is saying is that an e-procurement solution such as iPurchase does have some very tangible benefits, such as reducing the requisition to order cycle, which is what I just mentioned on the previous slide. They've tried to quantify it here from $51 to $26, okay? Reducing the cycle time from almost 10 days to about 3.5 days, getting maverick spend under control, et cetera, and that quote at the bottom, for every $1 in sales, a company spends just about half of that on purchase materials. Reducing the purchasing cost translates into net profit. So again, that comes directly from the Aberdeen group. This is a case study of a client of ours called AmeriForge. AmeriForge is a fairly sizable QAD end user organization out of Texas. They're well over 1,000 employees. As you can see, 10 companies, 21 plants. AmeriForge gave us the approval to move forward with iPurchase last August, and we were up and running and live within 90 days of the project approval. AmeriForge is fairly high volume. They're doing between 2,500 and 3,000 purchase orders per month using iPurchase. These benefits came directly from Mike Prohaska, the CIO, and Ben Keneally, Assistant Controller of AmeriForge. AmeriForge has saved, and these are direct quotes from these two gentlemen, saved hundreds of thousands of dollars in ERP license fees. Okay, we can talk more about that, but suffice it to say, what they've done is they've redeployed many of their QAD user licenses to end users who needed more functionality of QAD, and for the people that simply need to create a PO requisition or approve a PO requisition. They may be an approver of a PO requisition, but they don't use any other functionality of QAD. There was no reason for them to consume an entire QAD user license, which, as we all know, is very expensive. So what they've done is they've redeployed, now that QAD is requiring named user licensing, they've redeployed many of their QAD user licenses and purchased iPurchase user licenses was significantly less expensive. Increased user satisfaction, improved internal control, rework costs on recs decreased, et cetera, et cetera. So Ameriforge has had a very positive experience with iPurchase and has generated very tangible ROI using iPurchase. Some of the highlighted features of iPurchase. iPurchase is a 100% web-based app. There is no software loaded on the end user's machine. Everything is server-based. Okay? It's based on Progress Web Speed, as well as some jQuery and Java scripting for the user interface. What that means is it is up and running quickly. Maintaining it is fairly minimal. So expedited ROI, expedited training and utilization. 100% web-based. All you need is a browser. Real-time integrated with QAD, but will also operate in a hybrid environment. So for any organization that may have other ERP solutions in addition to QAD, we do have a non-QAD version of iPurchase. So you can run iPurchase for both your QAD instances as well as your non-QAD instances. Right? And for any organization that may be contemplating moving away from QAD, and we certainly have spoken to a number of companies in the QAD community who are considering moving away from QAD sometime in the future, may not be necessarily today, but sometime in the future, their investment in iPurchase will not be lost. They will be able to move iPurchase from QAD to whatever new ERP solution they may implement. E-commerce shopping with all major suppliers, we call that punch-outs. We'll demonstrate that to you today. For suppliers that don't offer punch-out capability, we offer supplier catalog management. So if you can get your suppliers to send you a catalog, typically in Excel format, we will load that catalog into iPurchase, and the end user will shop against those catalogs in a very e-commerce-like fashion. We'll demonstrate that as well. The heart of iPurchase is our rule-based approval routing engine. Okay, of course, we're going to show you that today. iPurchase can also be used for non-PO documents, such as CapEx requests or vacation requests or IT change orders or things like this. So we have customers using iPurchase for all types of requests that need to be routed through the organization for review and approval, and for some action to be performed upon final approval. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a purchase order at the end of the approval cycle. We have integration with the QAD work order at the line item level. We offer full project budgeting and tracking within iPurchase, so you can set up budgets within iPurchase, and then you can track the spend against those budgets. You could even have error messaging and thresholds set to stop spend, so stop a requisition from being entered or stop it from being turned into a purchase order if a budget's being exceeded, things like this. A PO requisition can be charged to multiple cost centers, so that's an advantage over the QAD GRS module, as an example. You can charge each line item of a PO requisition to a different department or cost center within QAD. We offer not only requisition approval, but we also offer line item approval. So you can create a requisition with multiple line items, and the end user who is creating that requisition can determine whether the approvers need to approve the entire requisition in its entirety or allow the approvers to approve each line item independently. So you may have a requisition. The example that we like to use is a laptop and a laptop bag. It makes no sense to approve one without the other. So the requisition would say the entire requisition should be approved or rejected. Or you may have line items that are independent from each other. So a laptop and a roll of toilet paper. And the approvers can approve one and reject the other. We offer fairly robust purchasing analytics and based on what's called UNSPSC codes. Okay, that's the United Nations Categorization Code. Fully integrated with Microsoft Email, Excel, and Calendar. We offer full mobile functionality, right? And we also offer some QAD functionality within iPurchase, such as purchase order inquiry and reprint, without requiring any QAD end user licenses. As I mentioned earlier, the heart of iPurchase is our iApprove routing engine. We are real-time integrated with QAD, so we read the QAD supplier master and product master, generalized codes and comments, work orders, the chart of accounts, etc., all in real time. So there's no data replication. All the data is continued to be maintained in QAD. The only data that's stored outside of QAD is some configuration data for iPurchase, as well as the PO requisitions themselves. Okay, so that's what you see here on this slide. Right? QAD tables are being read in real time. PO rec is created in iPurchase. We even have some clients that we're actually importing requisitions from other applications. So you can either enter the rec or you can import a rec. Right? It goes into the iPurchase database. It's then submitted for approval. Right? It's then routed to the appropriate approvers based on a set of rules. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Once upon approval, final approval of the requisition, email notifications go out to the originator of the requisition as well as the approvers of the requisition. A purchase order is created in QAD as if it was created in QAD purchase order maintenance. And we also have some clients that we're actually pushing the requisitions out to external systems as well, such as AS400s. Our approval routing engine, okay, I'm not going to get too deep into this because we're going to demonstrate this today, but that is the heart of our iPurchase solution. Okay, and that is based on a set of what we call configurable rules. All right. So, what's a rule? A rule can be based on any and all of the data within a requisition. A rule is basically a Boolean condition using ands and ors, which work together to determine a list of people or groups required to approve a requisition. So, an example of a simple rule: all requisitions greater than $10,000. Either the CEO or the CFO need to approve the rec. Very, very simple rule. But you can have very complicated rules as well. All CapEx requests between $1,000 and $25,000 for the following departments, for the following plants being shipped UPS or FedEx, or if the project code starts with an M, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think you get the idea here. It's not that important what this rule is. What's important is that the rules can be simple or they can be as complicated as you'd like. There's no limit to the number of rules that can be created. The rules are created by you, the end user, using our rules configurator, which is a point-and-click configurator that's provided as part of iPurchase. There's no programming involved. Okay, it's all point-and-click configuration using our rules configurator, and you, the end user organization, creates your own set of rules. Obviously, we train you on how to do that, and then you can go off and create as many rules as you'd like. Upon submittal of a requisition for approval, the rules are checked, and based on the results of a rule, whether it's true or false, the approvers are then assigned to that requisition for approval. That requisition is then routed throughout the organization via email for approval. And again, we're going to demonstrate that for you today. For suppliers that don't offer, as I mentioned, e-commerce shopping, which we call punch-outs, we do offer full supplier catalog management. And again, I'm not going to go through each one of these bullet points. I will be sending this presentation out to everybody who's attended today's session, so you will all get a copy of this. As I mentioned, we have a QAD version, which is tightly integrated with QAD, so reads the QAD tables in real time and creates a QAD purchase order upon final approval. But we also have a non-QAD version, which uses a batch and load process. So the QAD version is real-time reading the QAD tables, where the non-QAD version is a batch and load into the set of tables created in iPurchase. That's the only difference. The actual iPurchase code is the exact same code base, so all of the functionality is identical between the QAD and the non-QAD version. The only difference is the master data is either being held in QAD or it's being held inside of iPurchase. Upon final approval, we create a purchase order inside of iPurchase, which then has to be extracted and loaded into whatever ERP system that you may be using. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to hand this over to Frank, because I know that we have a lot to show and we don't have a whole lot of time to show it. So I'm going to hand it over to Frank Salisi, and Frank is going to show us some software.
Thank you, Andy. Okay, hopefully everyone's looking at an iPurchase login screen. The only thing I want to mention here is that we integrate with Active Directory. So if you have Active Directory set up, and of course you guys do, but if you want to use that with iPurchase, we basically, it's single sign-on. You sign on once, it'll cache your credentials, and you'll never see this page again. We also can use QAD if you have users that also have QAD sign-ons. Then they can sign on to iPurchase with their QAD username and password. And then, of course, you can have standalone users, which are only defined in iPurchase, and you'll set them up in iPurchase. The first thing I want to show you is what we call punch-outs. If you recall from Andy's slides, these are the eCommerce shopping. What a punch-out is basically that we'll go onto a supplier's website and we'll find some product, put it in a shopping cart, and then transfer that shopping cart back into iPurchase. The supplier does not charge for this type of activity. They don't monitor it. There's no contractual obligation to buy when you're on their website and transfer that cart to iPurchase. They know that you're requisitioning, so they're basically offering their website as an easy way to find the products you're looking for and bring them back into your procurement solution. These are some of the suppliers that you see on the screen that we have integrated with in the past. Very common suppliers. Most of the big guys offer this functionality. I'm going to use CDW as an example, so I'll click on CDW, and it'll take me onto their website. And the first thing you want to notice here is that they do know who we are. So we actually log in to their website. We log in behind the scenes. So you do get your contract pricing when you work this way. All right. So whatever you've contracted with the suppliers, you'll get that pricing. At this point, you use their system like you would any other retail website, Amazon, for example. Browse the catalog, search by keyword, etc. All the different websites offer, basically the same functionality, but in a different way. What I'm going to do is add this UPS to my shopping cart. I've also added the replacement plan. I've got my 2 items. I can shop some more, or I can just check out. Now, the big difference between a punch out and regular shopping is that the suppliers know that we're only requisitioning product, and they're not going to bring up a screen that says, please enter your PO number or please give me your credit card information. They know this is for a requisition. So what they want to do is transfer their shopping cart from their system into your system. So you'll see once I click that transfer shopping cart button, those 2 line items, the UPS and the replacement plan, were brought into iPurchase, and a brand new requisition was created. All right, I'm going to get into all these fields in just a few minutes. I wanted to show you one other thing before we start getting into details. That's punch outs. When you have suppliers that do not offer that capability, you may have small mom and pops that you're going to buy from that do not offer that capability. We have a solution for that as well. It's called our catalog system. This is where we sort of take the place of that supplier's website. You can load up your items for each supplier into iPurchase, and then your users can basically go through that same process. Search by keywords, search by categories, all that kind of thing. These catalogs, you can either request them from your supplier, and the catalog is nothing more than a spreadsheet. Item number, price, description, etc. It's a spreadsheet. You can request it from your supplier, or you can go through your invoice history for the last 12 or 18 months, and you can generate your own catalogs based on the data that you buy, or based on the items you're buying from different suppliers. Once you have that spreadsheet, you load it into iPurchase using the import catalog functionality. It'll route for approval. Once that's approved by the buyer, or whatever your approval process is for these catalogs, you may not even have an approval process, but you can if you need to. Once that catalog is approved, it'll be live, and your users can start ordering against it. So how do we use the catalog? Very simple. If I'm looking for printer paper, I can put some keywords in, and I'll have some printer paper, and then I can just add some to my shopping cart. I can also search by supplier. If I knew I was purchasing from the supplier that I've selected, I can select a supplier, and then it'll show me a list of categories that this supplier sells. All right, so these are all the categories that Hydroxco sells. I want to look for something to clean with, so it'll walk me down a path to find exactly that hand soap that I was looking for. Okay, so that's another way. And this hierarchy is built automatically based on the catalog. I won't get into how that's done. Very simple process. Once I have my items selected in my shopping cart, I can go to my cart. We can have multiple suppliers in a single shopping cart. All right? In this particular case, I only have one, but you can have multiple. We do one PO rec per supplier. So if I had multiple suppliers in my shopping cart, it would create multiple PO recs. All right, again, in this case, we only have one. Standard shopping cart, I can change quantities, I can delete, etc. I'm going to check out, and you'll see that a requisition was created for me based on my shopping, the iPurchase catalog. A couple things I didn't mention is we can create favorites. So if I'm buying the same thing every week, every month, etc., I can set those items up in a favorites list. I can choose to share that favorites list with other people. Okay, and each user can set up their own. We have pictures, but I don't have any available. That's pretty much catalogs. The next thing I want to do, and I'm going quick because we're a little bit short on time, so if anyone has any questions, please raise your hand or post a question into that question section in the GoToMeeting control panel. I want to walk through a little bit of the manual rec entry. So those are the kind of the quick ways to shop. The benefits of those quick ways are, of course, speed, but also accuracy, especially when you're doing punch-outs, shopping directly on a supplier's website. Your data is going to be very accurate. We'll get the real-time pricing. We'll get the exact item number. The description will be all correct. You won't make any typos. You won't have to do it twice, all right, just one time. So many benefits to doing punch-outs. So manual requisitioning, you have two options. We'll start with the supplier number. You can either search by supplier number or supplier name, okay? And either way, you'll get a list of all the matches for your query. Once you select a supplier, you'll see that first left-hand column there was filled in automatically with the supplier information. If you noticed, if I start really quick, I'm going to start over. I missed a step. You'll see that I have some values already pre-selected for me. A default requisition type, a ship to, bill to, etc. We have system profiles and user profiles. You can set up default values at the system level or at the user level for most of the fields. All right, and so my whole second column here, I really don't have to do anything. It's set up for me as my profile. I'm going to go back, select CDW. Now I can change if I want to change. Okay. Standard fields here that you guys should recognize very easily. Our buyer code, it's attached to our supplier, but we can change again if needed. The originator person putting in the rec, the on behalf of, is if I'm putting in the requisition on behalf of my supervisor, on behalf of a coworker. We can capture that data, and we have supervisory approvals, and we'll talk a little bit about this a little bit later. We have supervisory approvals. Even though I'm putting in the rec on behalf of Andy, when it comes to approval time, Andy's supervisors will need to approve, not mine. Okay, I'm only the person keying it in, so you don't have to worry about me for approvals. You really have to worry about Andy for approvals because these goods are for Andy. Who to deliver to? Another field we can capture, copy from, I won't get into. Is a PO required? Andy mentioned that we can use iPurchase not only for PO recs, but we can also use iPurchase for vacation requests, for capital expenditure requests, etc. In those cases, we would uncheck this box and we would not create a PO in the end. Instead, we would just simply send out an email to someone, maybe create a project in QAD if we're doing a CER, etc. So we can take different actions based on the rec type. We have RFQ functionality. I'm not going to get into that. Are all items required? This is basically telling the approvers we need to approve either the entire requisition or we can approve and reject individual line items. And the originator of the rec is going to determine that. If I purchase a laptop and a laptop bag, I do not want the approvers approving the bag without the laptop. Right? So in that case, I would check off all items are required. If I was buying 2 items, then they could pick one or the other, I would leave it unchecked. High priority will just send out exclamation points in the emails, the high importance emails, high priority emails, and you'll see those same exclamation points throughout iPurchase in the inquiries and on the requisitions. Up here, entry date, need date, and rec type. Rec type is very powerful. You can classify your recs any way you wish. You determine what goes into this list. A really big use of this field is to determine approvals. Most of our customers have different routing approvals based on rec type. If it's a capital expense, it'll route differently than an expense will, an expense rec will. Okay, so you determine what's in this list. Once I have this data populated, click on Save, and I'm given a rec number now, automatically assigned by the system. We also have some more tabs that show up as well as some more options up here. First is notes. We have internal notes and external notes. Internal, only your company can see. External will actually print on the purchase order. We have attachments. You can load attachments to the requisition. Any number of attachments can be loaded. You can control which file types are allowed and which file extensions are not allowed. Master comments, if you guys are familiar with QAD's master comments, these are predefined or template comments. You can search for one based on the reference. Once you find that one you're looking for, you can add it to the requisition. I'm not sure if you noticed there were 2 that were here before I started. They came in automatically. They're attached to the supplier. Every time a PO goes out for that supplier, those 2 comments need to be attached, so they get attached automatically. Okay. Down here, new item. I'm going to start creating some line items. We can search several different ways. As we start typing a part number that is defined in QAD, we'll get presented a list of the matches. We can also search by description. Okay, we could also search by supplier part number. All right, once you put in the 3rd character there, I'll start searching. All right, so I'll just pick this power cord. You'll see the description and the standard cost get filled in for me automatically. All I have to do is tell it how many I need. I can change the price or the cost if I need to. If it's taxable, I can flip on the taxable field here and it'll automatically calculate my tax, or I can override it to be whatever it needs to be. We have departments, accounts, and sub-accounts. My sub-accounts is currently hidden, not on the screen, but we also have sub-accounts. The way these guys work is that, number one, your users, you can limit which cost centers or departments a user can pick from. Okay, so you'll see here I only have 2. I probably have 30 in my database, but I only have 2 to pick from for this particular user. You also may have noticed that 2000 was defaulted in. Okay, so we have default for the cost center. When I change my department, this list here will also change. We're only showing valid accounts for that department. So we're not showing all accounts, only valid accounts for that department. Now, another way we limit this list is based on rec type, back here at the top right. If we have an expense rec, we're only going to show expense accounts. If we have a capital rec, we're only going to show capital accounts. And you guys define that relationship. You tell us what a capital, you tell us the accounts that are valid for expense. You tell us the accounts that are valid for capital. And then we'll use QAD to determine if they're valid for that department, and we'll limit what gets shown. And of course, by limiting it, we're making it easier for the users to pick the correct account. You have your line site down here that you can change. Again, taxable, non-taxable. We have work order integration. If I switch to, I think this item here is on a work order, we'll get a list of all the open work orders in QAD for that item. I can then pick on a work order and I can choose an operation. All right, and that's how it links it to the work order. This line becomes a subcontract item, and it's all linked and works real good. If we can attach a UNSPSC code. I'm not going to get into this too much, but the UNSPSC codes are used to analyze your spending. They're like UPC codes, but at a higher level. UPC codes are specific to a product and supplier, where UNSPSC code is only specific to a product. So you can, if you're buying that same paper from 10 different suppliers, you know exactly how much paper you buy, as long as you classify it all with that UNSPSC code. When you're using catalogs and punch-outs, the UNSPSC code is provided by the supplier. I can save this. We have notes at the line level, we have attachments at the line level, and we have master comments at the line level. All that works identical to the header. I'm just going to create one line. Well, let me create another line. We also can put in straight MRO items. Okay, so here I'll have to put in a description, a quantity, I'll have to put in the unit of measure, and a cost. Works the same way. This will go into QAD as a memo item. Okay, non-inventory. I have two items now.
Frank, before you continue, there's already a question, so let me ask it while you're on the line item screen. Question was, the MRO items are purchased but are not stored in QAD, which is very, very standard. Where would the items be stored? So the question was, would these items be stored somewhere in previous history, to be reviewed, to be reselected with the same part number and description? So if these items, these MRO items, are not stored in the QAD part master, obviously they can be set up in a catalog.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things. You can set up a catalog for them if you're going to purchase them frequently. The big difference between QAD and iPurchase is our requisitions do not go away. Our requisitions stick around forever until you decide to purge or archive. We have a button up here, copy requisition. So at any time you can come back into this rec. 3 months from now you can come back into this requisition, click on that button, and you'll get an exact copy of that rec, which will include those line items. So that data is always there. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. The catalog is another way of doing it. We can also set up a supplier cross-reference. We could do it there.
Right.
Many different places we could do that stuff. Okay.
Very good.
Thank you. Okay. So I'm at the approval history tab. This is showing us a simulation of who the approvers are going to be once I submit this rec for approval. So you'll see I have 4 different approvals required. Now, we have 2 types of approvals, 2 types of approval methods. One is strictly based on supervisors. It's an organizational chart with a hierarchy. Each user has a supervisor. Based on dollar amounts, the total cost of the rec, supervisors will be inserted into the routing. So the first level 10, supervisor 1, you'll see down at the second to last field, supervisor 1's approval limit is $1,000, and then their supervisor is supervisor 2. If we look at the cost, $641, it's less than $1,000, so we stop adding supervisors at supervisor 1. If I come back in here real quick and I change this price to $20 each, you'll see what happens is supervisor 2 was inserted because now the cost is $24.41. So supervisor 2 has up to $1 million, so we stop at supervisor 2. Okay, that's a very simple method. It's used often, and it's based on dollar amount and supervisor. That's method one. Method two is the remainder of the rules. Alex Chen, I guess, was just added as well. He wasn't there before. The balance of the rules are based on the data on the requisition. Okay, this is where you build your and or statements. You can use any data that's on the rec. You interrogate that data, and if that rule evaluates to true, those approvers on that rule are inserted into the routing. Okay. So here I have 4 different rules. I'm not going to show you how to create them, but these were created using ands and ors, point and click, in our configuration screen. Now we have simultaneous and sequential approvals. Simultaneous is 2 or more approvers can approve at the same time. Before or after does not matter. Sequential is the second guy needs to wait for the first person before they can approve. Okay, so we have an example of both in this scenario. You'll see here 10 and 11, that's sequential. 11 and 35 is sequential. So 35 won't get notified of this rec until both 10 and 11 have approved. But once 11 is approved, all the people on 35 get an email, and then it becomes simultaneous. You can have someone from the finance group approve before Alex does. Okay? And then once both 35s approve, then 40 will get notified. Once 40 approves, 900 will get notified via email to approve. All right, so it becomes sequential again. So there's an example of both. We have Alex Chen here, who happens to be out of office. The little sailboat indicates that he's out of office. His alternate for that time while he's away is Bill Copps. All right, so we have out of office and delegates. We have the notion of groups. You can have 1 or more members in a group, and we only require a single person in that group to approve. We don't require everyone in the group to approve, only a single person. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is submit this for approval. And you'll see that the status is now pending and all the fields were locked down. If I come here, we'll see that only Supervisor 1 is pending. So we only notified Supervisor 1 so far because the next one is sequential. I'm going to log off real quick. Okay, I logged in as Supervisor 1. When I first log in as an approver, and Supervisor 1 is an approver, the system will show me my queue. These are all of the requisitions that are pending my approval. Okay, you'll see the status on all of these is pending. They're all pending Supervisor 1's approval. I have a few options on the screen. One, I can look at the requisition data right from the screen here. I can do a one-page printout of the rec, and this will show me all the data that's on that rec, including comments if there were any, and it'll also show me who's approved so far and who's left to approve. Okay, I can also select multiple requisitions that I know about that I've looked at previously, and I click Batch Approve, and it would approve all of them at once. All right. What I'm going to do is go into the rec and just do it the hard way. When I first come in, I'll have an Approve Reject button at the top. I'll see who's approved, and then I see these little circles down here. Because our All Items Required checkbox was unchecked, I have the ability to approve and reject individual line items. And all I have to do is click the circle, and it would toggle between approved, rejected, and pending. Okay? So I can do that. If I'm going to reject, we put in a reason why. We could also set a code that we can analyze later on. If I'm approving, I simply need to approve. It'll ask me if I password one more time. It'll approve, and it's now off my list. Okay. So now we basically walk through that process for all of the approvers that are on that list. But instead of doing that, I'm going to take a shortcut and describe a little bit more functionality. I'm back into the same requisition as Frank, the person that put it in. All these fields are disabled. Some users have the ability to modify a requisition while it's in the pending status, and you give that security privilege. I don't happen to have that privilege, but some users can. All right, so you can make change, like the buyer, for example, is a very good case of someone who can change the data. Now, because they can change the data, iPurchase is always looking for data changes. We keep track of each and every change to a requisition. We have an audit trail at the header and also at each and every line. So we'll see every single change. I think I changed this line item. Sorry, let me go back. I hit the wrong button. I think I changed, yeah. So I changed the cost from 200 to 2,000. Everything is audited. So when a change is made by another user, iPurchase will know that, and if the requisition needs to be rerouted from the beginning, it will. All right. So if I just change, if I'm the buyer and I made changes and those changes impact my routing, the requisition will automatically reroute. Security. These three fields up here: add approver, remove approver, force approval. Based on security, not many people will have this functionality in your organization, but it is there. You can add an approver manually to the routing. You can remove an approver from the routing, and you can force approve. If you have a machine down and it's lunchtime and you can't wait for 6 people to get back from lunch and approve this, you have to order that part, you can get someone with this access to go into the rec and force approve. What force approve does is automatically approve on everyone's behalf and create a PO. Everyone is notified that this happened, so everyone that was skipped will get an email telling them that Frank just force approved this rec, so they know it'll happen, but they know after the fact. Okay. I didn't show you this earlier, but we also can retract. So I'm the originator. I put in a rec. I submit the rec. It's gone through 2 steps of the approval process. I can retract that requisition, make changes, and then resubmit. All right. So we're also able to retract and modify. I now have a PO which has been created for me, PO 1820, based on my force approval. We can look at that PO in our PO inquiry. You'll see those 2 line items are there. Quantity ordered, nothing received, nothing returned. All right, this is our PO inquiry. You just flip back real quick. We can also print out the purchase order. Where is my screen? I have 3 monitors. I'm trying to find the printout. Here it comes. Oh, wrong window. All right, so here's the printout from QAD of that PO that we just created. Those items. And now we integrate with JetForms, Pix, Optio, StreamServe. All those products are in use at our clients somewhere or another. Okay, so if you do use some kind of forms package, we do integrate with forms packages. We have this confirmation, punch outs. This order was a punch out. Well, the supplier is a punch out, so we have eCommerce with the supplier set up. So this order was actually sent to CDW electronically when I clicked that force approve button, and CDW actually confirmed that they received the order. And this is all the dates and times and who sent it, etc. So we keep track of the supplier confirmations as well. This little circle here tells us the PO is still open. It'll change to light green for partially received, dark green, and red for canceled. Now, one thing that the process doesn't end yet. We still can make modifications to purchase orders. That happens all the time. So we have a change order process. A change order process based on security. Who's allowed to create change orders? Who's allowed to modify POs? We'll create a copy of that PO. A brand new rec is created. It's linked to the old rec. The only real difference is that the PO number is associated with the rec right from the beginning. All right. At this point, I can go in and change line items, close line items, cancel line items, change items, add items. Everything that you would want to do to a purchase order. So I'm just going to change the price here. I've changed the price, and now I'm going to submit for approval. And based on your rules, those changes will either require approval or require reapproval or not require reapproval. If they do require reapproval, the requisition is routed for approval again. All right. I'm going to just force approve this again. And what you see down here now, rather than create a PO, we've modified the PO. Okay. So now I want to show you this functionality here, our PO archive. We actually take a snapshot of each revision of a PO. So if I wanted to go back to see what that PO looked like when I first sent it out last month, I can do that right here. Click on open, and again I have to move the window. And this is that original revision 0. I forget the quantities, looks like 121. And then based on my change order that I just did today, again we'll move the window. This is revision 1, and my quantities are 100. Oh, sorry, I think I changed the price. Yeah, I changed the price. Okay, so this is my revision 1 with the price change. So we keep track of all those revisions as well. I believe that you don't have that capability in QAD today. Once you create the revision, that previous history is gone. Okay, we can automatically email that PO to the supplier. Well, a couple different ways. Number one, if it's a punch out requisition, that rec is sent electronically to the supplier. We also email automatically by default the PO to the supplier. We have that supplier's email address right here. So that supplier will get an email as soon as that PO is created by default. You can turn that off. If you do turn that off, you can use the manual emailing to the supplier. The information is all defaulted in. Choose whether or not to include attachments, and you can manually email the supplier that email. I've got some emails here that have been sent out during my demo. This is what an email looks like when a rec is first submitted for approval. This is who it's going to. It tells me that Frank submitted a rec, and all the rec data is included in the email. Here's an email saying that the rec was finally approved. This goes back out to the originator and anyone else that you want notified. This is an email that went to the suppliers that were skipped when I hit force approve. I'm not suppliers, to the approvers that were skipped. Remember, I did that force approve. Each one of those people that were skipped will receive this email telling them that Frank force approved the rec. This one is, I guess, the second rec I did. This one here is a email to the supplier that was sent out automatically. We'll have a printout or a PDF version of that rec, of the PO in that email, and that gets sent to the supplier. This here is an email from CDW when they confirmed that that PO. They came back and gave us an error that they don't know what these two items are. Right? So there's a problem. You got to go take care of this problem. And this gets sent out typically to the buyer or the originator. CDW doesn't know the items. They can't do anything with them. They'll send you out an email, and we'll forward that email to you. Here's another approval, and here's another force approval. So those are some of the emails that iPurchase will generate for you. I did not talk at all about budgets. Budgets, we can keep track of budgets. You can define budgets in iPurchase. And as you use those budgets up, we'll put warning messages up, error messages up if you exceeded, if you've gone over tolerances. That all will work based on project code. So you can set up budgets based on project codes, and as those projects get used, we'll keep track of how much has been used, who's used it, where it's gone. So here's an example. We have a $51,000 budget for project code test 1. The $51,000 is allocated between Department 2000, Department 0900, for $45,000, and all other departments can use $6,000. Then we keep track of where the money is. You know, is it on pending rec? Is it on over POs? Has it been received already? Etc. And then down here are all the actual balances. All the actual transactions that hit up against Department 2000 Project Code Test 1. Last thing, requisition inquiry. Here I can find any old requisitions in the system. Okay, everything is stored, like I said earlier. This is basically your inquiry to the recs. Okay, you can use all these fields up here to search on. You can have views. You can create your own views. Show me all expense requisitions, etc. Show me CDW pending recs. You define these. An administrator can define and share with other folks, but you can do that with views. We have graphing, so you can graph. Not sure what happened up there, but you can graph. I think it's something to do with my small little monitor I have going on. Yeah, I'm sorry about the graphing. I don't know what happened to the graphing, but we do have graphing. You can analyze how you're spending the data. How much paper am I buying? What supplier am I buying that paper from? Should I consolidate my paper spend to one or two suppliers so that I can get a better price from the suppliers? We can export data to Excel. So we can search, find data, export to Excel, and slice and dice in Excel if you don't like our graphing. We have out of office. If you go out of office, you can pick an alternate. There's rules based on who you can pick. You could give us a start date and time and an end date and time. I'm out of time. Thank you very much. I'm going to toss it back over to Andy.
Okay, Frank, thank you. If you want to just hand me back the control of the presentation.
All right, you should have it.
I do. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So we answered that one question. I don't know if there were any additional questions that anybody had. You can either certainly speak up. I'm going to take everybody off of mute, and you can either speak your mind, or you can type your question in the question box in the GoToMeeting, or you can certainly send me an email at aweinstein@issgroup.net or at sales@issgroup.net. Feel free to call me directly if you'd like. If you have any questions, whether you have it now or you can think of it after the meeting, feel free to send me. And as I said, I will send out a copy of this presentation to everybody who's attended today's meeting. That's the only problem with taking everybody off mute is GoToMeeting has an echo. But there's no other questions. I don't see any questions being typed. No. So, okay. So thank you all for your time today. We appreciate it very much. I hope you attend future seminars.